Natchez Trace Parkway changes in latitude. Deep in the woods, a waterfall cascades over a fern-covered cliff. Emily Davey, park guide.
The park is 444 miles long, and we cover 3 states. The different zones of terrain, of habitats, of forest types, plants and animal communities that you find along the parkway has quite a range. How many other parks cover 5 degrees of latitude?
Lisa McInnes, Chief of Natural Resources.
In that span, you cross a variety of ecosystems. There's ranges in habitat types from hardwood forest to pine-dominated forest to open grasslands. And that ecological diversity, I think, is part of what makes the Natchez Trace so beautiful.
A car drives past flowers alongside the parkway.
The lower part of the trace has that more, I would say, stereotypical southern feel. You've got Spanish moss kind of dripping off the trees, big live oaks.
The lowest soil found down near Natchez and near the southern terminus is a unique soil in that it is deposited by wind. There are only a couple places on Earth where that sort of soil is found. It's very fluffy in characteristic.
Cane tucks walk along the trace.
The cane tucks are boatmen from the Ohio Valley.
Dennis Flake, park guide.
And they're called cane tucks because a large percentage of them are from Kentucky.
The cane tuck's relationship with the soil is a direct one, the lowest soil that is. Their footpaths were preserved in history because of the properties of the soil, because its soil is so easily compacted.
The trail appears sunken with steep sides. In a swamp, a thin layer of green vegetation covers the water.
In addition to the live oaks and the pines, you're also going to find a few areas where they have those cypress swamps.
Kristen Maxfield, park ranger.
And those cypress swamps are an area that, you could just get lost in because they are so beautiful.
A pair of lizards scurries along the forest floor.
And you feel like you've entered a complete wilderness.
The sun sets over a walkway crossing the swamp.
The Cypress Swamp, which is located just north of Jackson, is one of the oldest, to my knowledge, of standing mature cypress and tupelo left in the state. The biggest attention getter at Cypress Swamp are usually the alligators.
A large alligator with pebbly skin lies on a partially submerged log.
The middle section from roughly Jackson to Tupelo is kind of a transition.
You begin to transition into a more southeastern mixed oak forest with oaks, various pine species, and some hickory.
The setting sun silhouettes blades of tall grass.
People don't think about prairie in the southeast at all. They think of it more of a Midwestern thing. But there actually was a crescent of prairie that extended through northern Alabama, northeastern Mississippi, and then just a touch into Tennessee. We call it the Black Belt Prairie.
Lush orange and green grasses line the trace.
It is unusually fertile, and it's characterized by a black sort of soil, and so that's how it got its name, Black Belt Prairie. We've preserved about 180 acres along the Natchez Trace Parkway.
A dark blue bird perches in a thicket.
The indigo buntings that you can find during the summertime are just spectacular. As you're driving along the parkway, no matter where you are on the parkway, it's going to take you back in time. But that Black Belt Prairie is so authentic to this particular area that I think it's just an absolute treasure.
An orange sun shines low over the parkway.
The northern end of the parkway is a little bit different than the southern end.
A ribbon of pavement snakes through acres of lush woodlands.
In the northern end, you are at the very edge of the southern Appalachian foothills.
Deep in the woods, a waterfall spills onto limestone rock.
In the spring, you have absolutely gorgeous dogwoods and redbud trees that are blooming along the parkway.
Flowers in a variety of shapes and colors bloom on several trees.
The wildflowers in the woodlands are absolutely spectacular, particularly at Rock Spring and Sweetwater Branch.
Small bell-shaped blue flowers dangle in a clump.
The scenic beauty of the Duck River is a sight to behold. It has got incredible diversity. The river watershed in general is quoted as being the most diverse river in all of North America. Jackson Falls is another example of a really beautiful waterfall located along the parkway. A short walk leads you down to a great exposure of limestone.
Water runs down dark stone covered with fallen leaves. Elsewhere in the park, vehicles travel along a double-arched bridge.
In the fall, you have the spectacular leaves changing color.
You got your oaks and your maples and all kinds of trees up here.
Sunlight shines through autumn foliage. Water cascades down stepped rocks.
And the neat thing is, no matter when you come in the spring and the fall, somewhere on the trace you're probably going to find those spectacular colors.
Mature trees with yellow and green leaves line the parkway. More water flows over rocks. Rust-colored foliage fills the swamp.
The Park Service goes to a great extent to preserve the scenery, including the natural resources, so that they are sort of untouched by modern man. And so I hope that people get that sense, not only for the cultural resources and the scenic resources that the Parkway provides, but also the natural wonder that is preserved by the Natchez Trace Parkway.
Water flows down a cliff of limestone. Elsewhere along the parkway, a golden sun sets over a quiet stretch of road. Titles appear: Natchez Trace Parkway, National Park Service, U.S. Department of the Interior, 662-680-4027, or www.nps.gov/NATR.